SNP spokesperson Deidre Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I associate myself with the Leader's comments on Sir David Amess. We're struggling through particularly difficult days, Mr. Speaker, and the PM's desperate deflection from the topic of the economic crisis and her Bay's Secretary of State's refusal to even admit the dramatic crash just after the mini-budget had anything to do with it fails to reassure. Yet this was also a week when Tory politicians clutched their pearls in horror to discover that many people in the UK, including our First Minister, don't like the fact they support a party whose increasingly chaotic mismanagement and cold-hearted political ideology are viewed with utter abhorrence. And it does seem this blindness to reality goes all the way to the top. The Prime Minister in her conference speech shared, "I know what it is like to live somewhere that isn't feeling the benefits of economic growth. I grew up in Paisley and Leeds in the 80s and 90s. I've seen the boarded-up shops. I've seen families struggling to put food on the table." An odd reference because, of course, those were the days of her hero, the late Margaret Thatcher's government. Although, as she seems intent on returning us to those days, perhaps not. After all, the government is threatening iron discipline on spending and difficult decisions coming down the line. So can we have a debate on economic history, lessons learned? I understand the Chancellor studied this at Cambridge. I think it's about time he had a refresher. Now, this week sees the start of the independence referendum Supreme Court case. And I note that back in June 2014, before the last independence referendum, the Scotland Office issued a research and analysis sheet on Scots' personal finance, which said, as part of the UK, our savings are protected by UK-wide institutions, and the costs of the essentials you spend money on, like energy and mortgage bills, are kept lower and more stable than they would otherwise be. Now, just how far removed that is from where we find ourselves today would almost be funny, Mr. Speaker, if it wasn't so frightening for our constituents. So can we have a debate finally, examining the promises, the vows, if you like, made to the Scottish people at the time of the last referendum that have so badly let them down, to ensure they won't be misled again before the next one?
Well, I think the Honourable Lady makes an excellent suggestion for a debate. We could talk about the dividend to every Scottish household of being part of the UK, the tax dividend to them. We could talk about the various schemes the UK government has given to support people through the cost of living issues we're facing, most recently the enormous package on energy pricing. We could also discuss the SNP's record on drugs, on health, on education, even perhaps bin collection. And finally, the SNP's total lack of self-awareness about their own tragic record.